Welcome to Success Redefined with Dr. Tony Warner. I'm Dr. Tony, mom of 5, psychotherapist, author, and mentor. Here, you're going to find insightful discussions spanning science, psychology, and soul as the personal and professional meet, and we explore the intersection of what really matters. So success can be redefined with connection, healing, and fulfillment in mind. In this episode, I encourage you to consider how busy your life gets, how busy all of our lives can get, and how you feel about that busyness in your life. Now, I don't aim to make busy wrong or bad because I really don't think that it needs to be. I don't think we need to categorize it as a completely negative thing, but I don't think that it's healthy for us to feel the weight of busyness as often as most of us tend to. In our fast paced, high liability, competitive society, we can all get so busy trying to keep up with it all while also trying to meet all the needs of our family members and all the demands at work. And all too often, that busyness, it can take over and it can make it hard for us to be more present in our day to day life. And I think it's such a timely conversation for us to have, especially given all of the political challenges and debates that have been happening amongst so many of us, because that adds an additional layer of challenge, of struggle for my goodness, like for all of us who are paying attention to it, right? It makes it hard for us if we're so sucked into the busyness of all of the things in life. It makes it hard for us to feel good and to experience more joy and more pleasure as parents, as professionals, as citizens, and even just on our own, just as ourselves. So I'm really happy to have this conversation today because I think it's a timely chat for so many people, myself included. So let's head over to the solo chat that I get to have with you today. I was driving down the road the other day and I wasn't going anyplace special. Maybe I was going to the store. Honestly, I don't even really remember where I was going. It was just kind of an everyday task, so to speak, that I was carrying out. And I was driving down the road and I started looking around me, really just being present with all of my senses, noticing what I was passing while I was on the road in my car, noticing how my body was feeling. And I just felt this inner flood of this sense of peace and calm and appreciation for life. And not just my life, but life, existence, our existence, our lives. And it felt good. It was a moment that I've had before, moments I will have again, moments I enjoy having. I do not have that experience, that extended experience every single time I drive, but I do try to come into the present when I'm driving as often as I can. Try to remind myself to do that. Because in those kinds of moments, and maybe you're thinking of moments when that happens for you, or maybe you are thinking of the fact that those moments don't happen for you often. But in those moments, I just feel really good, no matter what's going on in my life. Even if I just left my house after having an argument with someone, or even if there's something really hard happening in our family that we're facing, a challenge that we're confronting, in those kinds of moments where I am present with my senses, with my sensory input, I'm being present and aware of them. It feels so good no matter what's going on. And so in this particular moment, when I was driving in the car the other day, I found myself saying, "Ah, this is it. This experience. It's what we all need more of. It's what we all forget the importance of. It's what we're all too busy to make time for. It's so much of what we're missing. It's so much of what I am missing when I get too caught up in life. It's so much of what our society is missing when they get too caught up in life. It's so much of what we're missing when we're being super busy parents. Go, 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 run, 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 this activity to that activity to this, answering this email from this teacher, reading this email from this school district, filling out this paper, da 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 da, helping our kids with their assignments or X, Y, or Z, like the day-to-day tasks of being a busy, busy parent. It's what we miss, we forget, we minimize when we are just too busy working. Maybe because we've become a workaholic in some fashion, or maybe it's because we're just overwhelmed or burnt out with whatever it is that we've got going on at work, or maybe we're too busy fighting. Too busy fighting with one another, too busy fighting within ourselves, too busy fighting within our marriage, too busy fighting with our children, too busy fighting over politics, right? Like maybe it's because we are too busy complaining about the state of the world, getting caught up in the uh, debate, the political debates that we see on our TV that we just can't even imagine how it came to be this, right? Maybe we forget about these moments. We forget to take these moments. We don't have time for these moments because we're too busy beating up on ourselves because we should have been doing this, or we are supposed to have been doing this, or we should have been able to get that thing done, or we should be focused only on this next goal because we have to meet it, whatever the thing is. We have to meet this deadline, or we have to achieve this next thing. Or maybe it's because we spend so much time pointing fingers at others to shame and blame them, or trying to block ourselves from other people pointing their fingers at us, trying to shame and blame us. Too busy, so busy. It's tiring. And then we miss out on these simple, powerful moments of enjoying our existence, of enjoying and appreciating our lives. It's so easy to do it, isn't it? It's so easy to lose track of it. Having my fifth child this year and still being just a couple months postpartum from having him, I can catch myself probably on a near daily basis getting caught up in wanting something to be different, or knowing that I need to get X, Y, or Z done because we have house construction going on, we have some excavating going on in our land. I just had a baby, and obviously I have four other children in addition to the baby to care for. And so life is busy. Even if it's all blessings, right? Even if it's not a particular challenge, it's all blessings. Life can still get really busy. It doesn't have to be a trauma or a challenge in order for it to get busy. It could be really great stuff that's keeping us busy. And even then, in the midst of all that great stuff, we can forget to slow down and bask in the appreciation of just the experience of living, the experience of life. All of this is flooding through me in these moments in this car ride. All of this is just like, but in a way that felt good. It wasn't overwhelming. It wasn't frustrating. It felt good. You ever have that feeling? When even though there's a lot going on in your life, whether it's super challenging or there's maybe a lot of trauma experiences coming up for you because of what you've been through, or maybe there's a lot of blessings, no matter what it is, like there's just a lot going on. And yet there's these moments when you are able or choosing to just be in that moment and really notice with all your senses the beautiful trees swaying in the wind and the glory, the awe of how that came to be, and the sun, the heat of it. You can feel it on your skin, the warmth, the brightness, the light, and the steady, sturdy support of your breath. And then you notice that as you're being aware and appreciating those sensory experiences, being present with what's around you, your mind feels lighter. Your body feels less tense. You ever have these moments? And maybe, the subtleties are a bit different for you. Maybe the way you experience these mindful, intentional, really aware, present in the here and now moments it might feel very different for you and yet still feel good. You ever have those? It's it's so simple, but it feels so good. It's like, I kind of imagine this these kinds of experiences being like this button that God instilled within our being, this innate, natural button that we could push that helps us reset in those moments when we get to feel this. It feels like that, like a mini reset. And I think that there's a spectrum of how we could discuss what resets are. I spoke in a different episode about how we don't always need a huge reset. Sometimes we do need a huge reset in life, a reset that affects the way in which we are being in the world and all these different aspects, but we don't always need that. However, we can benefit from these mini resets like this, just being aware, not hyper vigilant of all the dangers that could be or may have been, but being really aware of the felt sense that right here, right now, in these moments, it's okay to enjoy, it's okay to bask, it's okay to feel safe. And this can be really hard when we live in a world where there's so many of us that don't feel safe. Maybe we don't feel safe in society because of experiences that we've had, experiences of injustice, experiences of oppression, experiences that really connect to deep trauma for us. Maybe it's we don't feel safe in our relationship with our partner or our spouse or our ex or even our children because of things that have happened in those relationships or perhaps continue to happen in those relationships that lead us to feel mentally, emotionally, or even physically unsafe. Maybe it's a lack of safety that we feel because of past trauma that we had during our childhoods. That even if the person that imposed that pain and violation on us in our lives is no longer in the picture, is no longer in our lives, or maybe no longer even alive. And yet the memory of that experience continues to live on in our bodies. And so we don't feel safe. How is it that if there's so much in this world or in our relationships that leaves us feeling unsafe, that we could have moments of this where we could tell ourselves and actually believe it's okay to feel safe in this moment? How is that? I'll tell you that it takes practice and it does take experience with actually having moments where you are safe, of actually believing that you could experience safety in small moments to begin with. That's a challenging question, and it's actually not the direction that I was going to go with this conversation, this episode today. So I'm not going to fully segue into it, but I do want to share that. I want to point it out. I want to point at it as a really important conversation. I think that maybe we need to have in a future episode, because there's so many layers to the experience of trauma that affects all of us in some way, shape, or form, and that directly connects with our ability to feel safe, our sense of safety in this world and in our relationships, and even with ourselves. That being said, it is possible that even those of us that have experienced trauma in our lives and are continuing to process, or maybe haven't even begun to process some of that trauma that we've experienced, it is possible for us to have moments where we feel safe. Those moments look and feel different for each of us, but it is possible to begin to practice that and to have that. So I'm driving and I'm noticing the trees, and I'm feeling so connected just to everything. I'm feeling unconcerned. And I don't mean unconcerned in a like stick your head in the sand type of thing, this avoidant, la 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 la, the world, like everyone and everything is perfectly safe and everything's okay. And da-da. I don't mean that like avoidant kind of lack of concern. That's not what I mean. But in those moments, as I was feeling really connected, really present, really appreciative, I wasn't feeling weighed down by the burdens of life. I wasn't feeling blinded. It wasn't like I was blind to there being challenges and traumas in our world. That wasn't the experience. But it's kind of how I imagine our source, our God, feels when looking at us. Aware, right? Like super aware that challenges and pain exist in our world and even within us, yet not bogged down by them, not arrested by them, because there's this knowing that we can care and be aware that there are challenges and traumas or too muchness or busyness or chaoticness in the world, in our lives. We can be aware of all that and care about all of that and still not be mired down with intense overwhelm or fear or anxieties. And I think that sometimes, especially those of us that are really passionate advocates, or those of us that are really hard workers with strong values, go-getters that want to get out there and make a positive change, sometimes I think we confuse being aware and caring with also having to be highly concerned and action oriented. And I think it's a mistake for us to conflate them. We can really care and really be aware that there are others out there with more or less privileges than us. We can care and be aware that there are others out there that are really struggling, really in pain, and even unsafe. We can care and be aware that we have pains and challenges and traumas in our life. Maybe ones that we see coming around the pike, maybe ones that are happening for us right now. We can care and be aware of all of that. And still, in those moments where we care and we are aware, we do not have to. It is not a requirement that we must then be so concerned that we are draining our own internal resources, that we are forcing and pushing ourselves into overly acting or intensely reacting. Because if we're not doing those things, if we're not so highly concerned that we can't sleep at night, if we're not so highly concerned that we're unable to enjoy other things in our lives, if we're not so highly concerned that we're not taking immediate and constant action or reacting, then that must mean that we don't care, we are not aware. It must mean that, right? How could I possibly care and say that I'm aware that there's pains and challenges and people suffering out there if in this moment I'm allowing myself to feel joy or pleasure or appreciation? How could I possibly say that I care and am aware that there are injustices out there in our system or in the relationships of those that I love and care about, or even in relationships that I am in myself? How could I be aware of those? How could I even say I care about those if I'm not taking immediate and intense and ongoing action right now? It doesn't make sense. So often, right? When we're in that mental state of urgency, we don't feel safe. And so we feel like we have to do something. We feel like we have to be concerned about it. Because if we're not concerned about it and we're not doing something right here in this red hot moment, then we cannot say that we care and we cannot say that we're being aware. And the rock and the hard place that we get stuck between with that belief system is that we have to keep mentally, emotionally, physically, heck, even spiritually draining and pushing ourselves past the point of exhaustion and into the realm of not just guilt, but shame and blame upon ourselves and others. Because we're tying together our mental health of needing to be highly concerned and our action-oriented way of relating to people, of needing to go, 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 do, push, push, push. We're tying that together with our valued traits of being a person, a parent, a partner, a human citizen, a professional that cares and is aware. And that means that there is no room for us to pause, to slow down, to bask in appreciation with some sense in those moments of separation from the chaos of life, from the what can't be controlled in life, and allow ourselves to be present in the moment, feeling our sensory experience in a pleasurable way, and seeing the good, seeing the beauty, seeing the all that surrounds us every day. We forget that. We miss out on that. When someone says the word mindful or mindfulness or awareness or intentionality, we can be so quick to be like, oh yeah, it kind of logically registers, but we can be so quick to kind of write it off and not really lean into what that means, what that looks like, what that feels like for us, because we are too busy. We're too busy being the people we, air quotes, should be, or air quotes, are supposed to be. We're too busy getting it all done, doing all the things, being all the things, defending all the things, attacking all of the things, advocating for all the things, that there's not space for us to enjoy and appreciate our existence. Some source, some force, what I call life force energy, God, brings this life and light into our lives constantly, day in and day out. It's what fuels all of the life around us, the energy that keeps things in motion. Our earth, the sun, the growing and blossoming of nature, the blood pumping through our veins. There's so much that if we just took a few minutes on that drive to really be present and feeling it, we could feel the awe of it, that we could feel the support of it, that we could feel the beauty of it. And within that, connect with this inner sense of knowing that, yes, there are challenges and there are traumas and there are pains and there are people suffering. And perhaps you and I are even one of them right now that are having pains, challenges, and traumas in our lives. That while all of that can be true, we can also be supported by this larger sense of the world, this larger sense of light and life. We all have these global beliefs, whether we realize it or not, about the world. And some people's global beliefs are that, people are bad or inherently selfish and only out for themselves. And so it's a dog eat dog kind of world. And some people's global beliefs are that, inside everyone is actually good and wants to do well. There's some people have the global belief that we're all doing the best that we can. Whatever your global beliefs are, you want to be aware of them because they really can color the way that we see the world, and they can influence our ability to be able to have these really, I think, important, vital, crucial, right? It's different words, same meaning, whatever lands with you. But be able to have these moments where we can really feel this deep connection and support of this life force energy, this source, this God that surrounds us, this energy that surrounds us on a day-to-day basis, and how absolutely amazing it is, and how powerful it is. And that when we can really connect with it, there's something about connecting with it and really feeling it through all of our senses that allows us to hold the awareness and the care for all of those plights, all of those challenges and traumas that exist without being mired down by the intense mental and emotional strain that we often think we have to have in order to do anything about it. I try my best to use this type of being present, this sense of feeling connected to an inner calm and inside support, this type of technique off of the road too, not just while I'm driving, but when I'm living in my day-to-day life. I'll give you an example. So just the other week, I was at the playground with some of my kids. And another mom was there who I didn't know, but we just kind of got to talking because our kids started talking to one another. And she had 2 kids, and it had come up that I had 5 kids. And her immediate reaction was like, her eyes widened, and she said, How? How do you do it? I feel like I'm losing my mind, and I only have 2. And, you know, I hear comments like that quite often. Even before I had my 5th, I heard comments like that quite often from strangers, from friends. It doesn't matter. People that know me, people that don't know me, I hear comments like that. In fact, just within the past week, probably about 10 or so strangers have said something like, wow, you've got your hands full, don't you? When they see me kind of out and about with my kids. And honestly, I think no matter how many children we have, it can be a role and a identity for us that can easily become overwhelming because it's not just ourselves, right, that we are needing to care for now. It is a whole other human being, or in my case, 5 whole other human beings. And they have stuff happening in their lives too. Sometimes that stuff is wonderful, and sometimes that stuff is incredibly challenging or scary or painful. And often, the older they get, the less control we have over what it is that happens in their lives. Yet, we, as the parents, as the primary adult in their developing lives, right? We need to be a sturdy support. We want to be a safe, helpful, guiding support. And yet, if they have all of these things happening in their lives, and we have all these things happening in our lives, and then we are looking at all these things happening globally or within our nation, and we get so mired down by all of that because it's so much, then how can we really, really, truly show up as effectively and as authentically as possible in the moments when we are needed most? If we are getting mired down or overreactive or completely overwhelmed by all of those big, heavy things or big, exciting things that happen in our lives or in our children's lives, how can we really show up as best as we can, the way we want to, and be as helpful as we can and as supportive as we can in the most trying and challenging moments? On a day-to-day basis with 5 children, there can be a lot of sensory overload, a lot of things happening that are highly stimulating all at once, because the baby could be crying and need to eat, and then the toddler could be upset because she wants to go play with this toy, and then the older kids are wanting my attention because they want to have a snack, or they want to ask a question, or they want to go on video games even though it's not screen time, and then my teenager is needing a ride somewhere or asking if she can do something, and everyone's asking me all of these things all at once, right? Like, that can be highly stimulating. That can be overwhelming. And I can notice in my body, in my nervous system, when it's like starting to tense up, like, whoa, this is incredibly stimulating. A lot is coming at me all at once. And that's just what my kids are wanting or needing. That's not even including what's happening around the house. Maybe there's a bunch of chaos on the floor because it's really dirty, or maybe the sink is overflowing, or maybe I have something on the stove that I need to tend to, or maybe I need to go to the bathroom, or maybe I haven't had my water and I'm thirsty, whatever this is, right? So there's could be a ton of things happening in any given moment that can be incredibly overstimulating, a sensory overload. And if I and like, well, I have to care about all of these things because I'm supposed to be taking care of myself, and I'm supposed to be taking care of all these kids, and I'm supposed to be taking care of our home. So if I care about all of these things and I'm aware that all of these needs and wants are happening, then I better get on top of that and take care of all of it right now. It is overwhelming, right? Like, you could probably feel it in your body right now if you can relate to any of this. Like, it is overwhelming to be like, oh my gosh, I have to do all of this, take care of all of this all at once. No, I need to be able to be aware when my system is overloaded and somehow choose to practice connecting with that sense of inner peace and calm, similar to the one that I felt when I was on the road, being present on purpose. And I do that a lot. I need to practice that a lot. It is one of the only ways that I can get through the day and actually enjoy parts of the day and effectively navigate, effectively manage the things that happen throughout my day. I have to be able to practice this sense of what I call core connection, a practice of being able to come into my core, to connect with my core, where my source energy is, where my connection to God, to the energy, to the support within me and around me lives and exists. And I do it all the time. Honestly, I don't think it is just because some person has a certain number of kids or some person has a certain job. We all have different parts of our lives. We all have different lifestyles, different demands, and that can be taxing. It can be overstimulating. It can be very frustrating. It can be overwhelming. It can feel like things are out of our control and we really want to try to control it. Like that can happen to any and all of us. And so instead of us looking at someone else's situation and comparing to what they have going on and how we should or shouldn't be able to handle things in a certain way because they are, instead of doing that, instead, I think we want to be able to notice and practice coming into our core connection, ourselves, being present, allowing ourselves to understand and to believe that we can care and be aware without always having to feel intensely overwhelmed, intensely concerned, and needing to take immediate, urgent action. Because the more that we're able to practice that, when I'm able to come into myself, connect at my core, whether I'm taking a couple seconds to do that or a couple minutes to do that, I'm then better able to respond to my children. I'm then better able to prioritize what it is I need to tend to first when a ton of requests are coming my way from 5 different kids. But if I can't do that, if I don't do that, if I won't do that, if I choose not to practice that, honestly, I can feel ill-equipped to handle the million things that are coming my way at once. And that leads to reactions that I'm not pleased about, doing or saying things that I wish I would have done or said differently, not being as productive or effective in whatever it is that I am wanting to do or get done, right? And that's going to happen to all of us. But if we can't feel care and be aware without having our emotions needing to take control over our actions, then we really can't make the wisest decisions that we can make. We are not as deeply connected with our source in those moments, and our brains are not in a place where they can function as optimally as they are intended to. We can tend to then live as a more reactive, problem-focused species, a reactive, problem-focused parent, professional partner, as opposed to a more grounded, solution-oriented type of individual who's actually able to be more effective, more productive, more attuned to others, because that sense of urgency and the heavy burden of constant action and pressure isn't there, and therefore is able to be more attuned to others, which allows us to be more compassionate rather than coming across as less caring. Ultimately, if we want to feel successful at enjoying our lives more, even as busy people, as busy parents, as busy partners, busy professionals, then we can practice some sense of being present in a way that allows us to feel really connected at our core, be aware of our senses, allow ourselves to have some kind of experience with the awe that surrounds us, if we are willing to give that a try, we will be more successful in feeling good in our lives without compromising showing up for what matters to us in advocacy or in social efforts, or who matters to us as parents and partners and professionals who live in this world navigating these systems. I hope that whatever's come up for you in our conversation today, that you take some time with it, that you explore what it means for you. Maybe you have started thinking about what your global beliefs are about the world, about people. Maybe you have started noticing that there's some more emotional reactivity that's fueling your actions, even if the actions seem like they're very well intended, and you want to be more aware of that. Maybe you are really noticing that you have been conflating being aware and caring with needing to be really worried and needing to take immediate urgent action, and that maybe there's some space and some place to begin to separate that so that your action can be guided in a wiser way and therefore be more effective, productive, and attuned to yourself and those around you, and so that you can feel more supported in what you're doing rather than heading down a road of burnout, frustration, resentment, and other mental health challenges. So until next time, go out, connect with your core, allow yourself to enjoy some moments in your life, to really be present with them, to appreciate them, to experience them in a pleasurable way, without the shame, without the guilt, without the urgency that you must do something if you really care, but trusting that you will do something when you need to, and that allowing these moments for yourself is not a bad thing, but in fact, could be a really good thing for you and for others. Links related to this episode can be found in the show notes section. Want to submit questions about success, satisfaction, healing, and relationships, health, or work? You can do that free and anonymous at drtonywarner.com, where you'll find other resources there as well. Did you benefit from this episode? You can subscribe, like, and share with another to pass it on, because anyone can listen on the go with this podcast audio available on all major podcasting platforms.